All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the West Dallas Meskwaki School Board to order. Ms. Deal, could you please lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Suzette, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Sickich.
Present.
Ms. Deal. Here. Mr. Burns.
Present.
Mr. Ustruck.
Here.
Mrs. Justum. That will be- Mr. Keller. President Lee.
Here. Proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Are there any modifications to the agenda this evening?
There are none.
Okay, well then we'll move right into the superintendent's report.
All right, good evening. So I am here on behalf of Dr. Lexmond, and we're going to start with our return to in-person learning. So we'll go through our guiding principles, external health metrics and internal health metrics as we have, and then our focus on student achievement and next steps. So as we talk every week about our guiding principles, just a reminder that we focus on our safety and well-being, learning that works for all, responsiveness and flexibility, and practicality of implementation. So our health metrics have been updated. So the week of March 25th is what you're seeing on the bottom row. Our COVID burden status in Milwaukee County remains at moderately high level, although it is going down slightly. Our COVID burden status in West Dallas, West Milwaukee is still in the high range, but is going down, has gone down from the March 8th week that was last reported. In our metric 3, a percent positive in Milwaukee County, going down slightly from 2.6% to 2%. And our fourth metric, percent positive in West Dallas and West Milwaukee, remains the same as the March 8th week at 2.9%.
Caitlin, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you go back to that one slide? I think that's actually incorrectly marked. So for the West Dallas Milwaukee School District, it's listed at a lower burden rate than the county. I just think that we did change it to moderately high and to change the color to yellow because it's at 53.32 versus 77.
Oh, yes, this one should be yellow instead of orange.
Yes, and it should also be moderately high versus high. It's very close to being.
Got it. The
considered
number
low.
was changed, but not moderate. Okay, so that should be moderately high on the bottom and should be in yellow. So I'll make sure to update that for next week. Thanks so much. And then in our internal health metrics, we have our both are trending in the right direction. Oh, so I should say the March 25th week was 0.23% as a district positive case rate. So it did go up slightly, but still is in the green, so in the low range. And then our quarantine percent is 0% for the week, the current week, March 25th.
Caitlin, can you just talk up a little bit?
Oh, sure. Yes, thanks, Jane. Thanks. So next on our agenda is our summer school plan. So information did go out today to families. So our 4K through 5th grade course offerings are listed here. We have 4K Jumpstart, we have 5K Jumpstart, Ninja Sports, Readers Theater, Book Club Cafe, Be a Math Magician, Arts and Crafts, Ooey Gooey Science, and STEM and Design. And summer school will take place for those grades this year at Hoover, Jefferson, and Mitchell. So signups will start April 4th for families on Skyward. And for intermediate schools, we have courses offered Page to Stage, Room Redesign, Summer Sports, Murals for the Community, Esports, Intro to Film, Batter Up, which is a baking exploration class, Community Partnerships, and Lunch and Learn focused on literacy and math. And for intermediate summer schools, our students will attend their neighborhood intermediate school. And again, sign up starts on April 4th. And same with our high school, summer school, we have our courses that are offered with credit recovery as always. And then there's GED 2. And for credit attainment, we have health, PE, personal finance, and strength and fitness. And then our students will attend their current high school for their academic, for summer school. And then as we look forward, it's already March 28th. So we're looking towards the end of the year. We'll continue with in-person concerts and events. And we're looking to continue to return to normal and currently are planning for proms and in-person graduation events. So those things are in the works. And as we have more information, they'll be presented to our board. And that concludes our update on in-person learning. Next is our legislative update. So the U.S. Department of Ed released new CTE fact sheet to help guide ESSER III decisions. And there's nothing really groundbreaking or earth shattering in this information, but we'll review it and bring anything that's important to our board and our community in terms of ESSER 3 CTE eligible expenses. For district recognitions tonight, we have a number of them. So in recreation, we'd like to recognize Noreen Murray for her commitment and dedication to serving our department programs and the greater community. Noreen was recently recognized by the Den Scouts of Madison. Noreen has served as the building supervisor for Scouts events at Madison throughout the years. They stated that Noreen is always so supportive of their events. She understood the importance of Scouts for the kids and always made sure that they have their meetings or make sandwiches for a food bank or host their blue and gold ceremony, which was where they recognized her. She was a big part of their den, and Noreen is a significant asset to our team. At Wilson, we want to recognize and thank Brittany Sugden, Amanda Hendrickson, Caitlin Dresdo for leading the garden club. We also want to acknowledge the hard work of Allie Cardwell, Brittany Sugden, Amanda Hendrickson, and Cecily Lyons for starting our very first pickleball team. Thanks for creating authentic learning for our students after school hours. And at Wilson, we'd also like to celebrate Kira Holman, our third grader here at Wilson, for earning the title of 2022 Future Chef for our district. Way to go, Kira. At Pershing, we want to send a thank you to Kira Osler Shaw, Emily Martin, Melanie Foland, and Nicole Ellman for creating our first ever Girls on the Run Club at Pershing. A group of 15 third through fifth grade girls will be working hard for the next 8 weeks to prepare for their 5K celebration at American Family Field on May 6th. At Walker, a huge shout out to the Walker team teachers for all of their work organizing and preparing students for their presentations of learning that were held on February 24th. The event was a success, and that is thanks to the teachers working and preparing our students. Thanks to Heather Kinzel, Bailey Kolakowski, Leanne Gleason, Amy Zeiger, Morgan Noster, Karen Raymond, Jane Robinson, Krisha Hines, Stacy Christensen, Patrick Collins, Jennifer Siskewitz, and Jennifer Streeter. At Man, the first grade team, Sarah McNamara, Molly Wangard, Rachel Deary, and Callie Steffen recognized the whole child as a learner as they dove into healthy living unit that included community partnerships and the many resources and staff within their building. And a shout out for a project led by music teacher Shannon Shimoyama and second graders from Miss Della and Miss Heiderscheid's classes. They were featured in a music video sponsored by the Center for Language Education for the Winter Olympics in China. And that video is linked on our website, which is super cool. At Madison, a big thank you to Crystal Pracky for creating, operating, and maintaining all of our social media platforms, including Instagram, which is brand new to Madison this year. At West Milwaukee, we want to give a shout out to Mrs. Ruiz, Mrs. Pepraki, and Mrs. Conahay. Their students researched a Greek mythological character and put on a living wax museum, complete with costumes, props, and trifold information boards. Students completed a feedback protocol gallery walk combined as a sixth grade community, giving purposeful feedback for students prior to their whole class presentations. And at Irving, a big shout out goes to Michaela Miller, Caroline Aiello, Tyler Hartman, and Kelsey Deanhammer, who have coordinated Irving's first Eco Club. This group of third through fifth grade students have teamed with the Kinders 5K students. They attended a recycling program at Keep Greater Milwaukee Beautiful and are exploring our community recycling systems and how we can protect our resources. And in other information items, we have an update on our referendum planning. So Dr. Stewart is going to walk through, she's going to share this presentation as we go through it. So wanted to start with our progress in terms of finances. When we were in this planning stage of our project, we did get a number of questions about what happened with our financial struggles and are proud to share just this slide that has two headlines that are really significant in reflecting our progress. So the one on the left is from 2017 during our financial struggle that our current administration inherited. And at that time, we turned to our taxpayers as one strategy for an operational referendum to help resolve this $17.5 million in overspending. And the answer to that operational referendum was no. So we understood that. And there were another of additional steps that we took at that time to put ourselves in a better financial position. Those are really difficult and involved cutting positions and freezing pay and right sizing or scaling back on our number of staff within our district office. And that really helped right our finances. So the headline on the right is from 3 years later, October 11, 2020, and reflects the new position that our district, got to and maintained throughout the years. So at this point, we're proud of that, incredible progress, and it puts us in a really good position to be able to focus on our next project, which is our facilities. Along with our financial progress came an increased credit rating. So just like individuals have a credit rating, our school district also has a credit rating. And this is really important for a number of reasons, but one of those is that when you have a higher credit rating, lower interest comes along with that. So when we would borrow for a project such as this referendum project, that comes along with lower interest rates, and that higher credit rating results in millions of dollars in interest saved. So it's safe to say that if our credit rating hadn't increased, we probably wouldn't be looking at this project at this point in time, but two is a really good time for us to be looking at it because we have this higher credit rating and it's a low interest rate environment. So those two items combined results in millions of dollars saved in interest in such a large project. Dr. Lexman has been putting together referendum quick fact videos. So we'll watch two here tonight. They're 2 minutes or less, and we'll go through two of them. And the first one is on the history of our high schools.
Hello, everybody. My name is Superintendent of the West Dallas School District, and this is a referendum quick fact. Today's question explores the history of our high schools, and I received the question, didn't we always have Central and Nathan Hale, and why would we change that? Well, the story of all of our schools is captured in a book titled 100 Years of the West Dallas, West Milwaukee Schools, and I'm going to share some photos from the various iterations of high schools. So the very first Central High School, which was the first comprehensive school in the community, was built or completed in 1920. Its location was 7510 West National Avenue. And if you're familiar with 75th and National Avenue, you know that building is no longer there, but that was the first Central High School. There was also West Milwaukee High School. We now use it as West Milwaukee Intermediate School. It was completed in 1927 at its current location at 5104 West Greenfield Avenue. Then there was the first Nathan Hale High School, and this may look familiar to you. This looks like Central High School because that is the current location of Central High School, but it started as Nathan Hale High School at 85th and Lincoln. And then there was the new Nathan Hale High School, which was completed in 1968 at its current location on Lincoln Avenue. And that led us to the new Central High School. So when the new Nathan Hale High School was built, Central High School moved out of its original building into the former Nathan Hale building, and it was renamed Central High School and later expanded in 1987. And that may lead you to wonder what happened to the original Central High School. It was later used as John Dewey Junior High School, and after extensive fire damage, it was torn down. So the point of this story is that schools evolve over time, high schools evolve over time, and the evolution is really to match the community and student needs. And so the referendum is really about the next evolution of our high schools. And this has been a referendum quick fact, and we want to remind you to vote on April 5th.
Fascinating story of our history. And the next video that we'll show here is again 2 minutes long, and this one is on our high school enrollment now and projected into our future.
Hello, everybody. This is Marty Lexman, Superintendent of the West Dallas West Milwaukee School District, and this is another referendum quick fact. Today I'm focusing on an interesting question posed by a parent. And what she suggested is, because we focus so much on the overall declining enrollment, maybe we should just focus on, so what is the enrollment projection just for our high schools? And I think it tells a pretty compelling story. So right now, total high school enrollment across our two large comprehensive high schools, Dotke and Shared Journeys, is over 2,500. And that sounds like too many students to go to one school. However, if you look at where we are 4 years from now and then 4 years later, so in 2030, we'll be at 1,923, our graduating class of 475, and every class after that is in the mid to upper 400s. But then if we take out the Dotke enrollment, and Dotke is a school that should range between 200 and 300 students, so if we take out 250 students from Dotke, we now have 1,673 students, and it is not academically or financially viable to run two high schools of 840 students in buildings large enough for more. So I think this is something to think about. We have an opportunity right now, while interest rates are low, that we can create a modern high school that really is a point of community pride where everybody comes together around our students. Or we can wait 5 years and a future school board will have to face the reality that it is no longer financially or academically sustainable and be forced to squeeze all the students in at Hale. So I just think it's something to think about, and I appreciate a parent asked that question. And this has been a referendum quick fact.
Sorry about that. We have a number of those referendum quick fact videos that are out there. They're on our website and are being pushed out through our social media channels. And our board is also recording a few of them as well. So those will continue to go out through April 5th and are really a bite-sized way to get information on our referendum. So we welcome our community to review those videos as well. Another piece of the referendum partnership, which is really important for our community and our students in the future, is MATC's guarantee in our career and technical education spaces. So MATC has guaranteed that if our referendum were to pass and our school district is building the facilities, MATC will equip the facilities. So they've stated that in excess of $1 million of equipment is what they would be equipping our CTE classrooms with. And in addition to this, it really creates a partnership in terms of diplomacy, and our high school students will be able to, if they are knowing what track or what career they're looking for in the CTE field, will be able to complete all of their high school courses and leave our high school with an associate's degree at the same time. So there's that partnership, which is important for our high school students and also important for our taxpayers in our community, because both of us are taxing entities of West Allis, West Milwaukee communities. And instead of both of us duplicating spaces, we can do it together where we create the facility and MATC would equip the spaces. So it does not replicate the need within our community, and together we can partner and make more efficient use of our resources. And another important piece that we've gotten a number of feedback from our community through our referendum sessions, through our social media channels, and our facility planning email, we've heard about the transition plan that was presented to our families. And the transition plan was, the original intent and spirit of our transition plan was to get our students who would be graduating from our new school together earlier to create these experiences as one unit. And we heard from families that the number of transitions that this created for our students who would be in high school at that time was disruptive. So we actually went back to our architects and construction management firm, and they were able to rework their plan so that all of our students will maintain enrollment at their neighborhood high schools until the new school opens to all students in 26-27. So that's a change from what was originally presented. So all students will maintain attendance at their current high schools until the new schools open for all students in the 26-27 school year. And again, that was in response to feedback from families who thought the transition plan where students would attend a different school and then have to transition back to the new school was too disruptive, too many transitions in their high school experience. So we thank all of our family and community members for coming forward with that feedback. And we took it to our construction management, our architect firms, and we came to a really great conclusion together. So we're happy to be able to present this update. And then we also included a quote from Bright Architects and CG Schmidt. And this also went out in two families in a letter on Friday. And the statement reads, "It is feasible to adapt project phasing to accommodate construction at the Hale site while it is still being used to ensure that student staff and visitors will be both safe and productive. Most of our education projects involve working directly next to students and teachers during the school year, and both firms have extensive experience with school additions and renovations. Our teams know how to plan, schedule, and communicate to make sure to get the job done to mitigate noise, dust, and excess disruptions." And it is more common than not for these firms to be doing this construction while school's going on, because most of the time they're renovating schools that currently exist where students are learning. So they confirmed that this is possible. And so we heard the feedback and we moved forward with a plan that better suited our families. And then finally, we have a couple more information sessions coming up. One's this week, Thursday. This is virtual. The link is on our website on Zoom. And then on Saturday, we added an in-person session at West Milwaukee in the intermediate school library at 10 a.m. And that one is welcome again to any families. All of these are welcome to any families or community members who are looking to learn more about what the referendum, the rationale behind it and what it means for the community and our students. And we also added 2 Zoom Q&A sessions for people that will just want to maybe have a quick question or are looking for some more information on a specific topic, but don't need to listen to the whole 30-minute presentation. So again, these 2 Zoom Q&A sessions won't have a presentation, but are just a space for anybody to pop in and ask a question, or to just listen to other questions that are being asked. So again, these Zoom links are on our website, and these 2 Zoom sessions will take place from noon to 12:30 on Tuesday and Thursday of this week. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. We will move on to public comments. Just as a reminder, if you would like to address the board, you have 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and address before beginning your comments. The board will not be able to engage in any questions or dialogue from your communications, but if there is a response required, it will be done so by the next regular board meeting. If you do want to participate, there is an online sign-up form that is required to be used. So if anyone is listening via Zoom who would like to give a public comment, please utilize the link in the chat to be able to sign up to do so. Otherwise, I will call them in the order that they have been listed here on the form for me. So without further ado, Mr. John Malling.
My name is John Mulling, 3850 South Pole Drive, New Berlin. West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District has been in a deep hole since the 90s. And now that we're finally climbing out of it, you're going to put us back in another deep hole with this referendum. I want to talk about the elephant in the room. This board and superintendent have been deceitful and dishonest with the information that was in this packet. And I'm going to mention 3 ways you were dishonest. First of all, the dotted line swimming pool. You didn't put that on the budget. You didn't put this at the 149.8 because that would have probably put another $6 to $8 million. 150 some million looks a lot worse than 149.8. And the question is, how in the world are you going to pay for it in the future? I suspect with another referendum. So we're going to be caught with another one. Second, for months and months and months, you've been talking about 149.8. I don't know if you've noticed in the past 1 or 2 months, when you go to the grocery store or the gas station, things have gone up precipitously. 8% in the last month. An 8% increase to 149.8 is 16 million extra dollars. That would make your project 162 million at an 8% increase. That means every screw, I-beam, rebar, sheetrock is going to probably cost at least that. Add that to the maybe 6 to 8 million for a swimming pool. We're talking 168 to 170 million. I got that figure from an architect, maybe $6 million. But the third thing that really angered me in this pamphlet, the only red statement in this whole thing is on the back page that reads, if approved, the total mill rate is estimated to be less than it was in 2020. Guess what? When I saw you use the word 2020, the red flag went up and I smelled a rat. And guess what? I found a rat because in 2021, my taxes went down 7% and you didn't want to use that number because if you're going back to the other mill rate, my taxes are going to go up 6 to 7 again. That's why you did that little trick. And I hope people recognize that fact. My taxes will go up again 6 to 7% if you pass this referendum. It makes it appear like you're saving money when we're actually raising your taxes again and putting you right back in the hole. That's devious. That's deceitful. But you know what? That's the MO of this school board and the superintendent. You're trying to put lipstick on a pig and sell us the pork, and I ain't buying it. Finally, I hope that all the people in West Dallas, West Milwaukee, New Berlin pull out their tax bill. Because here's the comparison, 2020 to 21. You got to do it for your taxes. Look at 2020. Do you want to pay that number? Or do you want to pay the 2021, which I save 7% on my bill? And remember, it's for 25 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Joe Mikolajczyk.
Joe Mikulajczyk, 3355 South Russell Court, New Berlin. We do not need a $150 million referendum to build a Taj Mahal at Hale. This equates to $20,800 per student at the current enrollment. Just let that sink into your thick heads, $20,800. That also equates to $58,650 per high school student. Of all high school students currently registered, 77% of students are school district residents and 23% are not West Dallas, West Milwaukee residents. You expect the taxpayers to trust you? Here are the major reasons taxpayers should not. Number one, a $20 million pension loss, with half of that amount being borrowed money. After this debacle, gross overspending and deficit budgets. The failure of the last proposed referendum and Mr. Unelected Educrat Lexman, who went behind the voters' back and got a loan for, quote, energy efficiency. And after that board meeting, Mr. Unelected Educrat went to hide in the bathroom when reporters were going to question him about that. Next, the loss of $843,000 to a scam associated with the building of a rec center, not a school building, a rec center. No heads rolled. Miss Catlin, you should be fired. It's only taxpayers' money. By the way, I would suggest that anyone interested in finding out how careless and callous you are with taxpayer money to look at the nearly 100-page West Dallas Police Department report on the investigation of the $843,000 loss that you want to sweep under the rug. Another point the school board makes is MATC will pay for some costs associated with the schools, and you'll use federal government funds. I hate to tell you geniuses, but federal government funds and MATC funds are taxpayer funds. You cannot be trusted. All your backhanded dealings, you serve the teachers union and the administration. As proof of this, I would like to bring the voters' attention to the proposed March 21st, not open to the public, closed meeting between Mr. Lexman and the board. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss
20 seconds.
a superintendent evaluation and contract discussions. There is no reason this should be a closed meeting, but this is how this board and Mr. Unelected Educrat operate. You should be ashamed of your actions and inactions. Vote no, 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 and no.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chuck Kornowski.
My name is Chuck Kornowski, Kornowski. I live at 2158 South 90th Street, West Dallas, 53227. I agree with everyone here that just spoke about the referendum. And I reiterate everything that they both said. I won't repeat everything they said. I myself have 3 children that went through the West Dallas School District. They graduated and they have good jobs at GE Healthcare. I'm also affiliated with Sheriff David Clark. If you check my name out, Chuck Kornowski, you'll see my photo with Sheriff David Clark. Also, I'm a grassroots supporter of the upcoming governor, Kevin Nicholson, who has he had many conferences on critical race theory throughout the state, which will be eliminated. I'm encouraging everyone in West Dallas, we the people of West Dallas, West Milwaukee, to vote no against this referendum. You have single parents, retirees. They cannot afford this amount of taxes in the future. You can look at different things to support the school if it survives. New Berlin and other school districts are using naming rights. We have businesses here in West Dallas, West Milwaukee. A large one is GE Healthcare. You have, as an example, our stadium. They use naming rights. American Family Insurance. We have to think a little smarter and wiser. I'm encouraging everyone in West Dallas, West Milwaukee, we the people, to vote no on the referendum. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Steve Broadwell.
Steve Broadwell, 12965 West Ohio Court, New Berlin. An Irving first grade teacher hung a BLM poster in her window last year. Marty fully supported this as part of a legitimate class project claiming BLM is not political. Another teacher at the same school led an online training class. This talented teacher had no bad reviews during his 10-year career and earned multiple PTA awards. He was dedicated to his students. People attending his training class briefly noticed his recent web searches for BLM Marxist, BLM violence, and white privilege myth. The principal said she had to report him to HR for this. He was targeted for reasons that had nothing to do with education, and from then on so besieged by negative feedback that he resigned. The district then had the audacity to offer this teacher good job references in return for his silence, which he declined and told his story on the Dan O'Donnell show. The hypocrisy and vindictiveness of this district is unmistakable, supporting a first grade teacher imposing her controversial political view onto first graders in an attempt to please those above her with her display of woke anti-racism. Juxtapose that with a teacher being destroyed for a privately held opinion, not in compliance with your narrative. And you blame the difficulty of holding on to good teachers on salary alone. Noah, you echoed Marty's notion that BLM, and you added in LGBTQ, are not controversial issues. The district's controversial issue policy 2240 is one you claim the district follows and enforces. 2240 states, instruction is to be related to the instructional goals of the course study and level of maturity of the students. The issue does not intend to indoctrinate or persuade students to a particular point of view. The classroom shall not be a forum for staff opinions, workplace issues, or personal interests. Do you seriously think that introducing BLM to first graders complies with his policies and that they have the maturity to critically discuss BLM? This is obviously indoctrination by both the teacher and this administration. This district has an agenda that diverts resources for controversial DEI programs into this district's curriculum in an effort to replace parents in kids' emotional and moral rearing and forces teachers to face their own racism and white fragility. Your agenda no doubt contributes to the district's declining enrollment and bottom 10 performance in the state and the rise in emotional problems you've cited. You ask for more and more money for a shiny new building, thinking this will solve the district problems. This episode is simply another sad
20
example
seconds.
of your strategy to start at a young age to use students as tools in your push to create social justice activists. Just like the book title, still in Hoover Library, read in this room by John a few months ago, A is for activists.
Thank you very much. All right, the next one on the list is Mr. Gary Schultz. I believe he is on Zoom. Brandon, if you could switch over the audio.
Can you hear me? No.
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was having a microphone problem. Thank you. My name is Gary Schultz, 1238 South 54th Street, West Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53214. So I had a chance today to look at the two referendum fact videos that were shown earlier in the meeting. In one of the videos, Dr. Lexman makes the following statement. The point of the story is that schools evolve over time, high schools evolve over time, and the evolution is really to match the community and student needs. And so the referendum is really about the next evolution of our high schools. But what we have here in this proposal is not really evolution. Evolution would be talk about true change as compared to where we are now. This referendum is nothing more than a new version of the traditional suburban high school with all the amenities on a single campus. So let's talk about the match of community and student needs. What community and student needs are matched by building the Fieldhouse Edition at a cost of $12 million when the district already has a field house that could be renovated and become the region's premier high school indoor athletic facility? What community and student needs are matched by building the Performing Arts Center at a addition at a cost of $26 million that includes a new auditorium, when the district would still have the auditorium at Central that has gone through recent updates and could be renovated, saving millions of dollars? In another referendum quick fact video, Dr. Lexman states, or we can wait 5 years and a future school board will have to face the reality that it is no longer financially or academically sustainable and be forced to squeeze all students into Hale. This sounds more like a scare tactic. Dr. Lexman makes that statement in this referendum fact video without providing any evidence to back it. Since the school board is the boss to Dr. Lexman, ask your employee why he made that statement in a video released to the public without providing resources to district residents backing that statement. And finally, I would like to thank school board member Kristen Kaiser for reminding our community of the great things that are happening at Dockey and the district's improvements to Dockey that will allow Dockey students to rise to new heights. There is a question residents have been asking. Don't we need a new high school because project-based learning model requires modern learning spaces? WAWM currently runs a project-based learning high school, Dockey. The original Dockey was built in 1934 with additions in 1937 and 1950. Dockey continues to receive improvements. The students at Dockey do amazing things in this facility, which has had no major additions in the past 70 years. One of the reasons for giving that one comprehensive high school is the need for spaces that support project-based learning. Here is a problem. Why is it that PBL can be taught at
Thank you very
Dockey?
much. Sorry, Mr. Schultz, I don't have the ability to tell you if time left or not.
Oh, that's fine.
Audio, so
That's fine.
your 3 minutes is up. So
Okay,
thank you very
thank
much
you.
for your comments. If there's anyone else who would like to leave public or provide a public comment to the board, I am going back to the list right now to see if anyone else had signed up. Oh, Mr. May had signed up. So I'm just going to say this now. So after Mr. May goes, if there's anyone else who is watching via Zoom who would like to provide public comments to the board, please sign up via the link at the that is in the chat. All right. Sorry, Brendan, can you switch the audio back for Mr. Michael May?
Are we good to go?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Hi, my name is Michael May. I'm representing a parent group called Yes WAWM Schools. We're a consortium of parents dedicated to the positive aspects of our district, and we are in favor of this referendum. I wanted to quickly respond to the previous comments about empty threats and referendums. In 2017, there was another referendum put before the district. It was an operational referendum, and the threat at the time was if it failed, cuts in elementary music and art would likely have to happen, as well as consolidation or increased class sizes. And those things did happen when the referendum failed. So I fully believe the district and its budget constraints when they say things will have to occur. Now, I'm going to read to you some comments we received from others, because you probably don't want to hear my thinking on this. So I'm just going to share some quotes, and as I get close to time, just feel free to cut me off. So I want to read these off. Shane C says, I'm voting yes for the WAWM referendum because I care about West Dallas athletics. As a parent of the Junior Huskies, we walk into Other schools in awe. Other teams walk into Central or Hale and we're embarrassed. Mark, he's a grandparent. He says, support for our schools is important for our entire community. It is essential that we provide the needed upgrades for the children in our community so that they can grow up and make it better. They deserve this. We deserve this. John Verbos, a parent and business owner, stated, improving and upgrading our school facilities in an effort to modernize our district's learning techniques is a long-term investment into the value of our community. Reducing the number of school buildings grants our students access to better programs and class offerings. Quality education is the foundation of a community's overall value and a primary draw for the new residents to buy and live here. Danielle N., a parent and early childhood education specialist, said, we will never move ahead as a district if we don't fully invest in the educational experience that children deserve. If we look to past mistakes as a reason not to right the wrong, we are bound to flounder. Now is the time to support WAWM schools. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of intervention. I also want to encourage people, if they like, they can visit our page at facebook.com/yeswawm. A couple of other quotes. As a high school counselor, I've seen the benefit good dual enrollment opportunities can create for teens and the like, and like the MATC partnership for that on-site learning. Districts that can pass referendums supporting their children attract new families, and I hope West Dallas can show its support of our future regardless of having school-age children in their homes. Stephanie Umstad, a parent. I support the referendum because I have 5 children in the district. The possibility of improving their schools with updates is very appealing. I'm also looking forward to having a high school that can house all the students in West Dallas, as well as the potential partnership with MATC. Again, I encourage people to visit us, facebook.com/yeswawm. Make sure to vote on April 5th. And if you have the opportunity to do so beforehand, please feel free to do so through early voting at your City Hall. Thank you.
Your time has been ceded, Mr. Broadwell. I'm doing my best here. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. May, thank you. I didn't get your address at the beginning of your statement. Could you please provide that quickly here?
Sure.
Brandon?
It's on the form as well. 2375 South Green Links, West Dallas. Thank you.
Much. All right. I don't see anyone else signed up on the public comments sheet at this time. And so I will close public comments and we will move on to item number 8, which is board reports. We'll start with item 8.1, which is the review of the board calendar. So today is March 28th and at 6 p.m. we have a regular Board of Education meeting followed immediately by a workshop for Sodexo food service. And then on Thursday, March 31st at 6 p.m. we have our final virtual community information session. And the link is provided on our website and can be received after various other methods if you cannot access our website for some reason. And then on Saturday, April 2nd at 10 a.m. we have our final community information session. This will be in person at West Milwaukee Intermediate Library. Then on Monday, April 11th at 5:30 p.m. we have a regular Board of Education meeting. This is starting at 5:30 p.m., not the regular time of 6 p.m. due to some scheduling needs of Dr. Lexman. Then on Monday, April 18th at 6 p.m., we have a workshop, health insurance request for proposals, RFP discussion to look at what we're going to do in the future for our health insurance. And then on Monday, April 25th at 6 p.m., we have our regular Board of Education meeting with newly elected board members taking their oath of office. And then immediately following, we have a workshop for the proposed 22-23 budget and preliminary tax levy number 1. Moving on to committee reports, item 8.2.1, employee engagement and culture, Mr. Keller.
Okay, thank you, Noah. We met on March 15th, discussed a few topics, the first of which was exit interview data. So that's something that we continue to look at as we look to identify trends in terms of people leaving the district. The past 2 years have been fairly consistent on the number of resignations. 19 to 20, we had 71, 20 to 21. 79. However, the first 2 quarters of this year are up slightly at 47, whereas the year before that, or actually 1920, it was 42. In 2021, it was 14 individuals that had resigned. The majority of the individuals that leave our district usually do so April 1st through June 30th. And then we'll lose about 25 to 30 from July 1st through the end of August. Typically, the information we're getting is that new position or new assignment is the #1 reason for resignations, followed by retirements. And a lot of the feedback in terms of what we could do to prevent somebody from leaving, the most common response actually has been nothing. And that's been followed by salary and then stable and consistent leadership. We reviewed 2022 to 23 contract language. Contracts were last reviewed by legal in 2017, and there needed to be some updates. We discussed what those would be. That was shared with the union reps the following Wednesday, and I believe that is on our agenda to discuss later this evening. In terms of the renewal contract process, this year, everything will be done electronically. Individuals will receive their contract electronically. The contract will be emailed to them via their district email. Individuals will be able to accept the terms of the contract using DocuSign. It'll also send periodic reminders to those who have yet to sign the contract, and will eliminate the cost of envelopes delivering and processing. And actually, in the past, the building principals had to collect the signed contracts and forward to HR, so that duty will be eliminated. We did have an early retirement update. Again, this was as of 3/15, but there were 20 individuals that were eligible for the program. Letters were sent to each individual. As of that date, we had 4 that accepted, but they do have until April 8th to accept the package. Finally, the last thing we talked about was the new compensation model update. Just a reminder, excuse me, in August of 2021, we instituted what was a bring to average compensation model. So we talked a little bit about how that ultimately ended up impacting all the teachers. I believe about 52% of our professionals received a wage increase. The average increase was about $811. So one of the things that we talked about is that while this is a good first step, we're not entirely sure that this addresses the concerns that we have in terms of being competitive with other districts, and making sure that that is not a reason for individuals leaving. So we'll continue to take a look at that and see what some of our other options are in that regard. That is our update.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Brian or the committee? Jane?
What is the final day that staff can hand in their contracts? I know it's done electronically now, but what is the final day? Do we know that?
Don't know that. I think that might be talked about later.
Okay,
Is that on
I'd like to know that. And we can also have a discussion about that at our next
I think it's May.
committee meeting as well.
It's usually sometime in May. When it's the second week in May,
Okay.
that they have to return them by, so. Any other?
We can confirm that for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions or any future questions for the committee to consider? No? Okay. We'll move on to financial stability and efficiency. Ms. Carr, I believe you're providing this report.
Yes. So the Financial Stability and Efficiency Committee met on Thursday, March 24th. We were joined by a Brown & Brown consultant to discuss health insurance RFP, which I learned is the process where the district opens up requests for proposals. It's called requests for proposals from other insurance providers. It was the job of the committee to decide if we needed to bring this to the full board to discuss, and we felt the need to do so. We will be provided with more information at our workshop on Monday, April 18th. We also discussed the upcoming referendum and the need to continue our communication efforts as a board. We talked about adding more community events to our board sign-up sheet so we could provide our community with the correct and honest information, and in turn, motivate them to get out and cast their votes.
All right, very good. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Jane or the committee about her report?
Not about this, but just to jump back to the contract. I've got a copy of it here and it says this contract is not valid unless signed and returned by the professional educator within 2 weeks of receipt.
Oh.
So there's not a specific date.
Oh.
Depend when they
So
got it.
2 weeks, that's what I wanted to know. So they have 2 weeks. Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Any other things for Jane to the finance committee to consider for future meetings? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our board member reports of community events. Does anyone have any community events they would like to report on?
Sure.
Ms. Deal.
So Ms. Carr and I were lucky enough to attend this Sodexo Future Chefs competition the 16th. It was a lot of fun. There was out of 150 submissions, there were 6 students, elementary students that were chosen to present their recipe. It was phenomenal. They all cook much better than I do. So unfortunately, I forgot I was going to grab all their names. So I just want to say congratulations to all 6 of those students. They did a phenomenal job, and it was really cool to go there and experience that. So that's all.
Thank you.
I second that emotion.
Does anyone else have any community events they would like to report on? All right, I would echo Ms. Steele's comments. I was lucky enough to be asked to be a judge for the Future Chef competition. And so that was the second year I was able to participate in that. And it's always a very big honor to be able to taste and then provide, and Caitlin was there too as a judge, to provide feedback and listen to why they selected the dish that they selected. The theme was a movie or book, a story, and they had to make a dish that was kind of based off of that. It has to be healthy. And then they were kind of judged on how easy it was to make, taste and things like that. So I always love it. It's great to see how excited the students get to be able to, they work with a Sodexo employee who helps them kind of put everything together, and they learn how to use a lot of the instruments used in culinary arts. And so it's great to see the participation from our students. And I believe this year they had over 150 submissions, which was a record by far, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve. And so there's a lot of interest in our district for this event. And so it's great to do it. And I want to thank Steve and his team for putting it on, because I think it really brings a lot to the students in our community. And I'm looking forward to be able to expand it to intermediate and high school as well. In addition, I also attended the marketplace at Hoover Elementary. Fair warning, my daughter was a participant, so I was there as both a board member and as a parent. But for a nominal fee, 50 cents a ticket, you were able to purchase tickets, and then students had basically come up with a business that they were going to generate a product for that you could purchase things from. So my daughter was doing nail polish, and so I did have one hand painted because, father, I want to make sure I'm giving business to my daughter's business. But there was people there who had tomato plants and other vegetable plants that they were selling. There were bracelets, there were maps. I also purchased a map that was created by one of the students of Hoover Elementary. So I thought that was a good thing to keep, because both my children did attend Hoover. So I thought it was a great event, and they were raising money for a Brewers field trip that they're going to have later this year. And it was very successful. They were able to raise enough money to completely cover the cost of the trip. So that was a great event as well. So I want to thank the Hoover staff for taking the extra time to work with students to figure out what they were going to do, and then make sure that they generated the materials that they needed to do it, and organizing the whole thing. So that was a great thing to participate in as well. Okay, so that's all that I had. So we'll move on to our consent agenda this evening. We have item 9.1, the minutes from our regular board meeting from March 14th. We have the 9.2, the employment summary, item 9.3, the supplementary contracts, and item 9.4, the financial summary. Does anyone need anything separated? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion?
not discussion, but just a comment. I'd like to give a shout out. Thank you to Janet Delicott, Human Resources, who did designate, who is early retiring on a regular retirement.
I can notice that as well. Yes, definitely. Thank you very much for that. Any- Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah. So we have 9.5, approval to issue 22-23 regular teacher contracts to eligible teachers, and 9.6, the approval to issue preliminary non-renewal notices to teachers.
I still move to approve.
I just want to
Oh.
double check the approval to issue. That's just for getting them out. It has nothing to do with the language of anything else specific.
Correct.
All right,
Yes, this is just approval to actually put them out to
Yeah.
the staff.
that's what I thought.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion to approve.
Yep.
Still looking for a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other last minute questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Opposed? Heather, you're an aye?
aye, correct. Hear me?
All right, thank you very much. That passes. Let's move on to our action items for this evening. Our first one is item 10.1, girls hockey co-op for the 22-23 and 23-24 school year. Mr. Marion, who I believe is on Zoom.
Can you hear me? Yeah, just bringing this for annual review. There was some new teams in the co-op, and every time there's a new team, we have to submit a new application. So this is a sport that we've had the opportunity to add in recent years, and looking forward to continue adding it with the board's approval and the new members of the co-op.
Okay, any questions? Jeff?
Justin, where do they play their games?
They play at the ponds in Brookfield off of Calhoun.
Nothing's at the Pettit?
It's possible they could have away games, but we're in a co-op led by Brookfield Central.
Any other questions? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very much. Move on to item 10.2, international travel, high school Spanish students to Guatemala and Belize, summer of 2023. Good boy, Helfenstein. Sorry.
Microphone, it doesn't matter.
They're both hot.
Okay. All right, careful.
I'm Bridget Boy Helfenstein, teacher in West Dallas, West Milwaukee at Nathan Hale since 1991. I am hoping that this will be my final international student-led or student trip to do study abroad and to do homestay and to do some travel. We're going to repeat the Guatemala Belize trip that we did in 2017. And just to kind of give you a quick picture of what it was, I'll just want to share this very quickly with you. These are just some pictures of what our trip entails. This is the same exact one that we'll do again this time in 2023. So we take our students to school. They go to school for a week. They have about 4 hours of Spanish a day in very small groups. As you can see, each one of those is individual classes. This was our whole group. We had about 22 students that went last time with 3 teacher chaperones and 1, my husband, we pay for him to also accompany us, and he was our gentleman adult that also. We tend to have more young ladies than men or young guys participate. We like it when there's an equal number, but that's kind of how it works. This was one of our trips that we went on. We go to Chichicastenango, which is one of the most famous indigenous markets. As you can see, this was pre-pandemic because we were pretty tight. Also walking through the indigenous market, the students have opportunities to barter, to buy all kinds of really cool goods to take home. We have the Spanish classes at an international or at a Spanish school. They do all kinds of classes for normal, like adults, business people, religious people, college students, and of course, high school students. This was one of our trips to Lago de Atitlan. We did a volcano hike. Some students chose to ride horses up to the volcano, others walked. We did do zip lining. That is currently closed, but hopefully we'll do it again as long as it opens by the time 2023 runs around. Then we take a small plane, as you can see, to Tikal. Tikal are some of the Mayan ruins. They're on the other side of Guatemala. And then after our trip to Tikal, we actually take a bus about 4 hours to Belize. We will have to cross the border, walking across. We did it last time. We visit a school here. You can see at the school, which is really kind of, I find fascinating. They had the same PBIS themes that we did back in the day. And this is a school in Belize. The kids were actually on summer break, or like they had like a vacation. And so they came to school on this Saturday to entertain us that day, sang their national anthem and did their pledge to Belize, and kind of just shared with our students. We also have a trip planned to a stalactite and stalagmite cave. You could see that the kids got to kind of do the Tarzan thing and do some jumping into the water, while other students went in the canoes into the cave. So we kind of had like different groups doing different stuff. Finally, our trip ends with 3 nights at La Isla Bonita that Madonna sang about. Yes. I Fell in Love with San Pedro, right? And it's on the Ambergris Kai, or the Key, and it's in Belize. So we take a boat out to the island, and then that's what you see in this picture. We're all going out to the island. We stay on the island in a, I don't know, like a 2-star, 3-star hotel. And then they have most of free time. We do plan a trip to snorkeling. I always require that we have several days on the island, because I want to make sure that no matter the weather, our trip to go snorkeling with Nemo and all of his friends won't be canceled. Last time when we went, it was super cool because we were able to swim with nurse sharks, and me being kind of the crazy one, jumped into the middle of like 15 nurse sharks, and all the students were like, whoa! But it was cool. It was fun. So yeah, I mean, these experiences are so like out of control, cool, that our students will remember them forever. And as you may or may not know, this is like the 11th trip that I'll be taking with students if you approve it, since 1993. And 220 students have already traveled with me in the past over the last 20 some years. And I hope that, or maybe 30 years now, I don't know. I hope that that they continue traveling. And usually this is like their first big trip away from their families, and it really helps them, have that itch to travel and to see the world. And so that's that. So this was our 2017, and hopefully you'll let us do it again.
All right. Any questions?
Well, I was thoroughly exhausted while watching all of that. That's jam-packed.
It is.
What a wonderful experience you're offering.
Thank you.
Anything else? I did have one question.
Yes.
You mentioned specifically
Yes.
Nathan Hale and Central Wood Dock. You have an opportunity to participate
Absolutely.
if they
Any
wanted
West Dallas, West Milwaukee student. The only requirement is that because it is a homestay and a school opportunity, they have to study at least 2 years of Spanish.
Sure.
So they're supposed to also be currently enrolled in Spanish to participate.
Okay.
That's been the rule.
Okay.
Just because they have to do that, they're in pairs,
Sure.
in houses, and they need to feel comfortable that they can like ask for things and talk to the families and stuff.
Makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. that's-
Sorry.
Have fun.
Thank you for doing the work.
Oh,
Okay. I don't know how to, do I just press the screen? Yes. Yep. It'll go away. Okay.
All right, we'll move on to item 10.3, which is international travel. Hale AP English and AP Social Studies students to London, England in July 2023. Ellery and Kinsey, please come up.
We don't have a fancy
That's
Well,
fine.
We're
Taking
mostly
notes.
here to more answer questions than anything.
Yeah, we always want to know, can we go? That's the only
If you do
question.
this trip for 30 years, then you better,
Yeah.
on your last trip, you better.
I
Right,
do
right.
actually have a slideshow that I present to the parents at parent meetings, but I didn't have it all fired up and ready to go. So now I feel badly about that. So Bob and I have traveled since 2013 to various places in Europe, depending on kind of where our fancy takes us and what we're doing curriculum wise and how many students we have. This trip that we are looking to do next year is just to the UK. We're looking at specifically England. The main reason that we decided not to travel to various countries like we have done in the past is because of the tentative nature of COVID. We want us to be in one location for the duration of our stay in case somebody gets sick or something happens. So we will be in London the entire trip, but we do have some day adventures planned to Bath, to Oxford University, to Stonehenge, Harry Potter Studios, which we did last time, which was an amazing, kind of nerdy, but amazing. And lots of time just getting around London, which is in itself, you could be there months and not see everything. So that's what we have planned for this time around. I don't know, is there anything you'd like to add, Bob?
I mean, as we plan our trips, we usually have like a short list of places that match both of our kind of curricular needs. We both teaching AP, spend a lot of time diving pretty deep into both literature and, for me, history. And so London is one of the probably the most rich Western cultural, cities that we can visit. So
And art too.
and
I mean,
art,
between
and
the-
yeah,
Yeah, between both of our classes, we both do a lot of actually
it's a
literature,
major part
history,
of
and art.
AP Euro is art and
Yeah.
music. And so I think we've always kind of gravitated around London. Most of our trips have incorporated at some point just because there's such a rich amount of history and culture there.
Questions? For a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very much.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring me back a TARDIS.
All right.
I have a dress.
And
to
and if
borrow.
anything from Call the Midwife.
My wife too.
Yay.
Okay, let's move on to item 10.4, approval of revised professional educator contracts. Ms. Marshall.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I don't have anywhere exciting to travel to, so I apologize for that ahead of time. I'm going south in about an hour, so, I can let you know that. Just very quickly before we get started, Jane, that the contracts are due back on May the 11th. They will go out on April the 14th. What we're asking before you is we sent the contract language to legal counsel for updates. Last time it had been done was in 2017. And it is just a best practice to ensure that we are up to date legally on anything that we are sending out. So that is what you have before you.
Okay, any questions or comments?
This has nothing to do with compensation models or anything like that. No, this is just the contracts for next. I just want to make sure I don't oversight something. That's all right.
It's a legal language essentially.
Yeah, that's on me.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, we were looking at these in our committee and we had the question about the payout for breaking the contract. That get looked at all?
Yeah, the liquidation damages.
Basically,
Yeah, that the liquidation damages have been in the contracts. They came about after Act 10. And it was the spirit and the intent of the liquidation damages is to reimburse the district for recruitment costs. And they really came into play when teachers started moving around to different districts.
I thought that we were not going to be sending these until we had actually identified that to whether or not we were going to remove that or not.
Well, that is what you guys need to decide tonight if you want to proceed or not.
Okay.
We did bring forth that question to legal. They did indicate to us that the districts that they do work with do have the liquidation clause in there. It also is very, I find that it's also an incentive for folks to let us know their intentions if they're going to stay with the district or not. Because the amounts are different as the time gets closer. What we don't want to have happen is that we have that people don't let us know, and then we're in a struggle to provide a qualified teacher in that seat in the fall. That to me is the worst possible thing that can have happen. We do find, as we did the study, that about 60% of the people do let us know. Most of those come in May. So it does give us a fighting chance to try to go out there and really find the best qualified teachers. I just, to not have a seat is very troublesome. I will not sleep well.
Can you repeat the dates they go out and have to be
They
back?
will go out electronically on April the 14th. They are due back on May the 11th.
So I get, not a big thing. So then why is that sentence in there about the 2 weeks?
That is for anybody who's hired after that date, that when we present a contract to a teacher, they have 2 weeks to accept or decline the offer.
Thank you.
So it's really more, it's geared towards the people who come afterwards.
Other questions or comments?
I'd like the first $1,000 or whatever, the first date money pulled out of it. I don't agree with that. And it being put in after Act 10 is just a stick at the teachers rather than actually doing anything to keep them, since 40% of people still leaving. It's not really doing anything.
$500 July 1st one.
$500 before July 1st. Depends on which contract we're looking at. They're different, aren't they?
The fees are different for each contract.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the one in August because that's where we need to be finding someone, but before that, I think I don't have to pay money if I leave my job. I don't see that if someone gives us 3 months ahead of time notice that they should have to pay money to leave their job.
So I don't think we can amend these here. They would have to go back to legal if we pull anything out, I think, to get final approval on that. That would delay contracts. Is that correct?
Well, what would happen in that case, if you do wish to delay that, is that we would proceed with the current contracts as they read.
Okay.
And then the changes would go into effect the 23-24 contract year.
Oh, I see. All right.
That is what actually did happen in 2017.
Gotcha. Okay, so we don't have to sign a second contract.
Yeah, right. So what we would do if you decide not to move forward tonight is we will go with the old contracts, but the old contracts do have the liquidation fees in there. So I want to be perfectly clear on that.
So basically, we would vote on what is in front of us, and if we voted against it, then we'd have to come up with that.
Correct.
Something else.
That's something different. Can we pause it once? I did have one question about the differences between the contracts. I did notice that for full-time regular staff, there was 3 tiers based on dates, but for limited staff and part-time staff, it was just anytime after the contract is signed, if they had signed, they would have to pay $1,000. Is there a reason why it's not tiered like the full-time regular staff?
I would assume, and again, I am making an assumption here, it has to do with a limited term year, basically on a 1-year contract. It's a different type of employment.
Okay.
And again, that is my assumption.
So does anyone else have any thoughts on the removal of the penalties before August for this?
Well, I'm thinking I disagree with Brendan, but because it would, we wouldn't be moving forward with that anyway until the following year, I would be willing to hold off on it so that maybe you could convince me, you know what I mean? Like either way, we're going to go through with this. And so I'm thinking that I would be okay with waiting.
The only thing I would ask, is there any legal risk because of the change? Because there was some substantial changes to the verbiage in the contracts that were put forth. Is there any legal risks that the district might undertake because we're not updating the language sooner?
Not that I'm aware of, because you've had the current contract that is in place. You have been utilizing that since 2017. Again, the spirit and the intent of going through this was to, keep with the best practices. But again, this is what happened back in 2017. The changes to the contract language was after that year's contracts went out.
Sure.
So this would not be unprecedented.
Okay. Other thoughts? Sorry.
If I could add, Mary Ann did some research too into the timeframes in which our educators are informing us of leaving. And I think this is important in this conversation. The timeframe before up to June 30th, the majority of teachers have resigned at that point in time, and it aligns with the first fee, which helps us in recruiting our best educators in the springtime before summer. So I just wanted, I think that's important in this conversation, just to note that the time period in which our educators are informing us that they are leaving our school district is before that first fee is instituted, which is helpful in recruitment.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's important, because having that fee there might be spurring some of those decisions a little bit earlier, as opposed to putting us a little bit behind the 8 ball further down the road. Again, I look at things from the recruitment perspective, since that's the world I live in. And I know the challenges that we have in filling some of the roles, some of the specialty teacher roles that we have. And the reality is, I mean, the other districts are doing it too. And I'm a little worried about being put at a competitive disadvantage, so to speak, of doing it differently than everybody else is. I mean, there's an argument about whether or not it should be done at all, and I get that. But if everybody else is doing it, I think until we come up with a better plan, I'm worried about removing that.
What was the date? Sorry. When did you say people let you know by? I'm sorry.
Yep, the time period is April 1st through June 30th.
Okay, but we do charge if it's after June 15th to July 1st, it's $500. So we actually, so I kind of see what Brendan's saying, that first part, if we're getting most of them are by July or June 30th, but at the same time, I mean, I've never worked in teaching, but I also know that, you know, not everybody is going to give you that, the amount, you know, like in the areas I've worked in, it's always required to give 4 weeks. Does everyone give 4 weeks? No. So my concern would be like Brian is saying, if we have teachers that are in like, you know, that it's just a really hard spot, you know, like our special ed or something that we can't fill, I'd like us to have as much time to work on that, because even 4 weeks, we already have teachers coming in by mid-August, some of them. So, I mean, if you're putting your, you know, saying I'm changing it August 1st, I mean, that puts us at a very big, you know, disadvantage. It's, you know, 3 weeks, we still got it. And there's also, it's just not, we pick up a teacher, we're like, okay, you're hired, you know, there's other procedures we have to do and stuff like that. So, I'm feeling kind of cautious about removing that. I think that kind of protects us in a sense that make a decision, you know, are you going to be with us or not? I mean, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Jeff?
I just need a couple of numbers, Caitlin or Mary. In the past, like year, 2 years, how many people have paid liquidated damages? We talking about a lot or a few?
I don't have that number in front of me, and I apologize for that. I can tell you from looking at the data, the majority of the resignations came in around beginning to mid-May, saying I'm resigning as of June the 11th. Because I typed it enough that I remember June 11th.
I mean, we're talking like 3-4 people.
Yeah.
We're wasting our breath.
The other thing too is a lot of times if they're after that time frame, and I'm speaking from the experience that my wife, who is a teacher, has had, as the other district who's recruiting that person after that generally pays that amount, so that they don't have to come out of their own pocket. I understand that's not 100% of the time, but it does happen a lot of the time because they want that person. They obviously offered them more salary, and the person's willing to either eat the 3,000 or 1,000 or 500, or
And they'll
it's
still
being
get
put
a
up on
signage
business.
bonus.
Exactly. Exactly.
And but if someone's willing to eat $3,000, that says more about the community that we're developing here than it says about that person. Because why are they willing to eat $3,000 to go somewhere else and not stay with us? So I think that that really makes it so that we need to look at what we're doing to keep people, not necessarily what we're doing to like prevent them from moving.
So I think the biggest thing about this for me is just protecting our students. And I think that leaving us in a lurch, I mean, as someone who has been a teacher, the majority of teaching openings happen between April and June 1. That's where you see the teacher openings. So if you're after June 1, you're looking for a teacher, all the best teachers have already got new jobs. We're looking for them.
I mean, that's pretty presumptive because I got hired in August 28th before I started working. So I'm terrible then.
That's all right.
That's not the norm.
Right.
That's not the norm. It's not.
I will let you know, my first teaching job I was hired 3 days before school started.
So
Yeah.
I got hired 3 days after. Yeah. Oh,
So I don't think it's a matter of the best or the worst or the brightest or not. I think really if we want to attract teachers, we need to look at the culture that we're developing. And I think that this is just something that came through after Act 10 that is for us to punish rather than encourage people to stay. So
And
that's where I'm at.
Bill, I interrupt somebody. No, was you, Kristen?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm voting no, based on I want to see the numbers changed. I would like to see the dates changed. I would like to see some things changed. I'm a teacher that's in this situation often as the current teacher on the board. This is something that my school also has language. And it's exactly what Brendan said. It's not fair that teachers are penalized. It's an open market for everybody. And so I'm not saying I disagree with every other part of this. I'm saying no, because I would like to see a change in how we do it. And that's how I feel like my vote should be today.
I did, but
Go
did
ahead.
you wanna-
Go ahead.
I do not look at it as a penalty or a punishment. I look at it as kind of like, well, you're breaking the contract. There's a restocking fee. Like, I look at it as this is a business and so we do have this fee and you need to be aware of that. When you sign a contract, you stay to that contract. And if not, there is just a fee for whatever, for that business. And I don't think that teachers look at it as a punishment at all. I don't know, I can't speak for all teachers, but I know that in general, I mean, it was just like, oh, yeah, you're gonna have to pay a fee if you break. I mean, that's.
My husband broke his contract. They didn't charge him.
But there's other
know,
businesses do
Yeah,
things.
I don't
like-
know.
like
I mean, I just don't think
Yeah.
it's.
I get it. I know. Teachers.
I mean, like
have
my,
total higher
one business
standards.
I was at, if you didn't give 4 weeks, they'll never hire you again. So I mean, you know, there's
Right.
things.
Jeff?
Yeah.
I just, as we're sitting there, I've been retired for a while, but I retired the year of Act 10. I'm positive that we had liquidated damages in our contracts before that. Maybe not these numbers, but there was something there. Because I also negotiated.
Right.
The other thing I was thinking of, and it might have been Brendan who said this, that, you know, this isn't done in other professions. My profession, I don't sign a contract. So it is a little different. We're comparing apples to oranges from that perspective. The profession I work in, I can leave at any time. And the only repercussion is that maybe my clients don't necessarily have the coverage. Maybe my direct reports need a new manager, but that can be worked out internally pretty easily. Again, to your point, in this case, we're kind of safeguarding the students to make sure they have the appropriate people in place to make sure that their education is ultimately not impacted. And again, I think if, you know, it's been mentioned multiple times before, I think that, you know, ultimately, if this districts want those teachers enough, they're going to pay it anyway. It's usually not going to be a loss to those individual teachers. So just my thought.
Heather, did you have any comments you want to make on this?
Nope, thank you. Sorry, my audio is a little off. I'm getting in and out, but I'm trying.
Make sure. The only other thing, oh, I'm sorry, Jeff.
I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to ask, Brendan, when you said were you against just 1,000 or all 3 tiers?
I think that honestly, I'm against all of them.
Okay.
But that said, I do also see the need to make sure that we do have someone in that chair for the school year. So I understand that there may be a necessity to it, but there's a difference between having it where it's a 3-tiered piece versus like if you leave without giving us a month's notice, we're going to do it, you know, and then that's the breaking of the contract. But I don't, when they have 3 months ahead of time, I mean, the $500 just seems punitive.
Then maybe just take it back to committee and you guys could work those kinks out, and we just have to go 1 year, because I hear what you're saying.
Right.
And we can't change that here.
Right.
So-
Right. And that was my first question, is I thought that was what we were going to do, and I didn't quite understand where we were at. So.
Thank you.
Another thing I do notice, not all districts tier it. Some are just $3,000 no matter when you break the contract. 3,000, it seems 3,000 is the number that is used by a lot of districts for breaking the contract. It just depends when they apply it. It might be immediately after signing, turn the thing in. If you get on April 14th, turn it on April 15th, decide you have a better offer, you want to go somewhere else, you got to pay $3,000. I'm glad to see that we have it tiered. So at least it isn't that way, because it is easier to find teachers earlier in the process than later. So, I mean, I personally am worried about losing staff later. I mean, I said even June 15th is late to try to find a teacher. And so I think that having the money there to try and encourage people to make that decision and do what they feel is best for them and their family sooner rather than later, with the understanding that some people will get opportunities later on. Maybe when other districts have this happen where someone leaves in July and then they're looking for somebody to fill in, that's a better opportunity for them. But the point is that for us in our district, we have to make sure we have enough staff to teach our students. And we don't want to have AP. I mean, we've run into that where we didn't have AP teachers. We couldn't teach AP classes because people left. So that's my concern. As someone who's married to a teacher, I think it'd be great to not have to worry about that. But at the same token, I think that it safeguards our district. If the majority of the board wants to do something different, you know, I'm open to looking at that. But right now, I would vote yes on the current proposal as it's in front of me.
So can I just ask a clarifying question? So if we don't do anything today, because we're going to bring it back to committee, is there anything else in the changes that you would like us to look at? So in other words, it's only that one thing that's holding us back. Is that correct? Is there anything else?
I think for me personally, I didn't like the fact that it was tiered for full-time staff, but not for part-time or for limited term staff. Even though those are one-year contracts, I think I think we're in the same boat as trying to find somebody to fill those positions. Unless there's data to show that it's harder to fill a part-time or a limited term staff versus a full-time regular staff, that would indicate that we want to make sure people are darn sure that they are gonna break their contract. And that's why we have the $1,000, because that's like other districts where it's just whenever you sign that contract, if you break it, you're paying $1,000. I'd like to see it tiered the same way or something similar, unless there's data to support not having it, if we move that way.
See, and I kind of saw it more as with the limited term and the part-time, that I would think those, and maybe this is wrong, you can maybe answer this for me, Marianne, are these those positions that are more, tend to be maybe not signing in May? Like, are these, because to me, when I think like limited term and stuff, I'm thinking someone that maybe, like, are they signing the contract at the same time that are full-time?
Normally, no.
So that's why I'm
Because to
thinking
get
why-
someone to take a limited term contract is difficult. What I have seen in my short tenure is that it's positions that come open, like they're gonna be here from January to May.
That's what I was kind of thinking. So then it would kind of make sense to only have that one, because we don't know when they're coming on. You know, like, you know, maybe we're bringing a special ed teacher back to cover something. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I read it, and that's why I wanted to clarify.
Other questions or comments? So at this point, sorry, Brian.
I think you were going to cover what I was going to ask. I just wanted to make sure that we clarified procedurally what we need to do this evening.
So Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong. We can take no action on this. Means that there's no motion, no second. And then if that happens, then nothing happens. It stays the same. It can go back to committee. Other things can be done to it. It can be brought back at a later time. If people feel that they want to move it, someone can motion it. And there would need to be a second, obviously. And then at that point, we would vote. And based on the vote would be the decision.
You can also move it back to committee, because if there's no action taken, it's gone.
It's gone. Okay. So we'd have to have a motion to move it back to committee, if that's what we want to do.
Motion to move it back to committee.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second to move it back to committee. Any last minute discussion or questions before we vote? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
I guess back to committee.
And just for clarification, then we will proceed with the contracts going out on the 14th, and they will be the current contract language.
Yep, that's our only option.
I just want to make sure that we're all clear. I don't want to be doing anything they shouldn't be. Yeah.
Just a question, does that change any of the dates by going back to the old one? Okay.
Thank you, Marion. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. All right. We still have more. All right. 10.5, approve board policy updates from the July 2021 as a second reading. Ms. Windler.
Thank you. So you did all the hard work on this one. The way that our policies work now in terms of approval is that we have a first reading at committee of the whole, which we've already done. So that was on February 28th. All of the policies that are either revised, new, or deleted are listed in the exec summary for this action item tonight. So they're all listed in there. And just going back to the process that these have gone through. October 20th, 2021, as an executive team, we reviewed these. These are the recommended policies from Neola. So Neola does 2 dumps a year, basically. One's in July, one's in January. This is the July 2021. October 2021, we reviewed them as an executive team and brought them forward to a workshop on January 31st, 2022. So our board, you guys went through these and had a few updates that were made. So those then came to the full board on Monday, February 28th as the first reading in committee of the whole. They stayed in committee of the whole for 1 month and are then being brought forward tonight for a second reading, which is the last step of all of these policies. And we'll do that process twice a year with these Neola policy updates that will come forward every January and every July. So this is the July 2021 Neola policy revisions, and there have been no changes, no recommended changes since they were last brought to the board a month ago on February 28th.
Questions?
To approve.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Heather, do you have any questions on this?
No.
All right, moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All's in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very much. All right, do we need a recess before the workshop?
Like 5 minutes.
Okay.
I could do it too.
What's
I just need to
that?
run to the bathroom.
What? There's one workshop. All right,
Like
so
2 minutes, I just
let's take a 5-minute recess and then we'll proceed with the workshop. All right, we are on recess. Efficiency, Sodexo Food Service. Mr. Cosner, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me. So tonight. Pardon? Oh, there we go. Thank you. So I just want to do a little overview of our program. This school year, we'll start off by looking at some participation numbers, a little bit of elementary news that I have for you, an introduction to Chef Matt, who is also new this school year with us. Give a little update and show you how our video screens are working that we just installed at the beginning of the school year. We have a new intermediate concept. As you spoke earlier, I got a few little slides so those of you who were not in attendance can see our future chef competition. And then we'll follow it up with some questions. So this slide right here, I was just looking at some numbers and I use as my base the 1920 school year, which of course was our, I guess, last normal school year. So I took the numbers from September through February. And then of course, for this current school year, I took the same. So the red bar there just represents overall. And I took participation, of course, because of declining enrollment, but the red bar just shows what our overall participation is with the breakfast program. And then I took the purple graph represents the, I have on here the BIC, but it actually entails all of the 10 CEP schools. So back in 1920, the 10 schools where everyone does eat free, that represent the percent of that population that eats breakfast. And then we actually did have a slight increase with those numbers out of those same 10 schools this school year, but I just wanted to check because of with this school year on the seamless summer contract that we're running, the entire population gets to eat free. So I wanted to look at the remaining schools to see if they, and indeed they are taking advantage of the free breakfast. And then again, I did the same thing on the lunch side. And again, it just represents, I'm just looking at the lunch numbers on the non-CEP schools. So right now we're doing about 2,300 meals a day for breakfast and another 4,500 meals just for lunch. Some exciting but delayed news with supply chain. The bad two words that we can coincide with this school year. These are the 5 schools that we're currently able to cook items on site in these elementary schools. We're a little prohibited on size of kitchens. The top 3 represents the ones that just came on board. And when I say come on board, they literally just came on board because we finally got some ovens and some other equipment installed. So before the break, we actually started prepping these items up in those three kitchens. And the picture here, this is one at Irving. So what we did in these kitchens where we we installed an electric convection oven, and then to the left of that, you can kind of see it's an under counter freezer. So it's multitasking. I didn't lose counter space for prep. Then underneath can hold the items that we're going to be cooking up that day. And this just shows the pictures of some of the pizzas that were prepped on site. Because right now we're still challenged on some of the smaller schools with the small kitchen. So if we do have pizza on that day, it's literally put in the oven as early as 8:30 to handle the volume that we have. And then it's put in a warming box, transported on the truck, and then held again till lunchtime. So we really can notice some of the quality improvement on some of the items. And then like I like to say, the saucy items like the spaghettis, mac and cheeses. Today we had chicken Alfredo in elementary schools. Those would still continue to come from the 2 base kitchens, which are Hale and West Milwaukee. So we're pretty excited about it. And the kids actually noticed too with the pizza and everything, that just-in-time cooking versus heating and holding is a much better method. So this slide right here, introducing, and I'm sure most of you have probably met already, Matt Byer, who's come with us this year. We did a little reorganization when my admin moved to Florida on me. We kind of restructured some outsourcing some of my financials, and Barb Bartoloni, my ops manager, is handling some internal things, which afforded me to, this is the first year we've been able to take on a salaried chef who works the entire 12 months. Pre-pandemic, we had Chef Rodriguez with us, who was hourly, and he only worked during the school year. So some of the benefits that we're seeing with Matt, he's again, his background has been with the Bartolotta restaurant group locally. He has a passion for working with students and my staff. So in addition to improving the skill set of my employees, it's showing here that Matt has done some taste testings in the elementary schools with fruits and vegetables, and getting them to try different things, trying new items. And then we've also the video that just finished on here. He's just completed a round of doing some in-house display cooking in the intermediate schools, and that will continue into the high schools as well in a rotation that way. And the kids really get into that. They're inquisitive about his background, how he got to where he was. I did silence this video because one of the students asked him how much money he made, but Matt does a great job working with the students, and he's getting to be well known in the district. I just had a conversation with Sue Miller today because we have a fruit and veggie grant, and she's wondering that maybe we can partner with Matt on days that some of the fruit and vegetables are distributed to go into the classroom. So we're working on that as well. Okay, yeah.
I was gonna say something completely random. We have a free fruit, veggie and fruit program at my school that the kids get every day. And something that's really helped was like little cards of like information of like where something's from or what else it could be related to. The kids get into it.
They
And they're
do.
at least willing
And
to try it.
So that with each of the 5 schools, we have the on-site coordinator for the fruit and veggie program should be developing and working with those programs, but that's a great idea.
Cool.
So, yeah. So this part been a little extra work for me, but it's a lot of fun and it's exciting. The new video boards that we installed in all the schools, and it could be as video playing on the far left shows over at Hale High School, where we have screens that are at the entrances get into the schools, and we have videos in entrance to the cafeterias. The lower right shows what an elementary screen would look like to show our daily lunch features. I can advertise my weekly breakfast with the students. I've worked with about half the schools now where I'm giving rights to an individual within the school, and they can put content on there as well. In the upper right, in the schools that have the area dedicated strictly to meal programs, like in secondary schools and some of the elementary schools, they have those called entertainment screens. So there's video content that I can control. I can also give control to the schools to put their own content on. And Central's been doing a great job with that. So it'll be some of the highlights of their athletic teams that will be showing during lunchtime. This particular one, you can take your phone with the QR code and find out how to make this smoothie. We also have educational videos on food preparation, garnishing, and stuff like that. Some of that, especially in the elementary schools, that there are some trivia time on there. In the secondary schools, the students can use their phones. You're simply given a number on your phone. You cannot type in your own name for your individual team, and the results will show on the screen. But for the elementaries, the answers will pop on the screens, and the kids actually get into that and are pretty excited about it. So a lot of endless possibilities with this. I think I attribute, Noah, you had mentioned, and so did Amy earlier, with the 150 entries that we had this year. And I think this helped me out a lot because I can advertise throughout the day on this. I actually put up some pictures from prior Future Chef competitions to get the kids interested. So they've been great. You can do a lot of things. We just kind of hit the tip of the iceberg with them. This next program is Foodie. This is the new concept, new format for intermediate/middle schools. And Sodexo, with the pandemic, they had 2 school districts last year. One was in my district manager's region, which is up in Faribault, Minnesota. There was another one out east. And so this year was actually kind of a phase 2 of reformatting our middle school concept. And of course, I volunteer. I like the challenge. I wanted to do something new. So then I'll follow the one. So at the end of the day, there was 6 other accounts, and I was one of them that was selected to do this. And it can come with some growing pains as well, but it's kind of invaluable because then I can take the feedback from the kids, which I serve because I'm a little self-centered with what I want to do with the kids in my district. So I want a voice. So the good part is that we were picked for this. And a lot of the big difference is when I was a little apprehensive in years past, pizza was on every day, nachos were on every day, and the hot sandwiches were on every day. And we kind of pared down where they're not on every day. And they were alarming on that. And after the initial shock by some of the older kids, it was interesting in talking to some. With the pandemic, the transition wasn't as big as I thought, because back in 1920, the 8th graders now, they only had 5-6 months of being a 6th grader before we changed. So it wasn't as drastic a move, but they accepted it and got some feedback from them. So now we pared down to how many offerings, maybe 5 instead of 8 or 9 on a day, and we can do the 5, do them well, and we can batch cook instead of mass produce in between as well. So just to show you some of the new food items that we do have, they're looking at some of the taste profiles and expanding on the palate of what a middle school kid student would eat. Some popular, some is not. The one on the upper right, these are cold rice and noodle bowls, which are not as popular. We are getting some movement on those, more to the female student population, but I'm providing feedback to our company because we work off a national menu. So they want to know what the feedback is. And based on maybe the repetitiveness of it, we've actually have the smoothie bowls, which are a menu item that is compliant with the National School Lunch Program. So you're getting your protein and your grains in here, and it's accompanied with the fruit and vegetables that we have offered that day too. So that has been a popular item. This is just a little sneak peek on these particular sides. We're over at West Milwaukee, so we're utilizing the screens that you see here. And this is showing a line that I think it was pizza day. And we also had an Italian pasta on board. And then we had a cold item. I think there was a chef salad offered that day as well. And then here's just a few more pictures. On the left is Frank Lloyd Wright. On the right is Lane. Picture underneath what I've done this year. I usually have meetings with the schools, and I've gone through the intermediate schools. I like to do a focus group with the kids, and especially this year with the intermediate age students, because I want to know what they think of the foodie program, and they gave me some good feedback. I always like to take away something that I can do and do a change based on that meeting that I did. And over at Frank Lloyd Wright, of course, the kids want salt, more salt, but we have to watch the sodium content. So that was a no, but we came up with a solution so now we have a spice bar and we're going to implement it in all the secondary schools. A little bit of salt in here that's not going to hurt, but we have, with some peppers, lemon pepper, some Cajun seasoning, red pepper flakes that they can spice up their meal as they so need it, that they can do. Over at West Milwaukee, we heard after we build our sandwiches, we put them in a wrap. When they put them in the hotel, a hotel pan, the bottom of the bun, we heard from the kids is getting a little hard if it sits in there. So I found a foil wrap to change to alleviate that problem, and using increasing the moisture content in our warming units to avoid that. So the students actually came up with some good feedback for us. I asked them about the menu, what they would do to change it, what new menu items they would like to see. So I'm taking that information and bringing it back to our company so we can do things even better for next year. So. Another part of the concept is instead of just steaming a vegetable, we're trying to enhance the flavor of that vegetable. So here you'll see some Mexican corn. In the middle is called a low country green bean with some seasoning on and a little bit of bacon in it. And then we try to roasting our vegetables. So versus steaming a broccoli, we're taking that broccoli, roasting it with a little olive oil. And I think on this picture here, we have a little bit of a red pepper flakes for a hotter broccoli that the kids are actually eating, which is a good thing. And then on days, it's kind of nice with utilizing with Matt, because his duties during meal periods are making a presence in the school. So he'll take these vegetables and just, whether the student is eating with us or not, or brown bagging it, let them, here, try this, see if you like it, kind of thing. So. This is something brand new. I just found on our Sodexo website and do a little, it's like inquiring in it with DPI, and the fact that trying to help out some of the students that choose not to eat with us and brown bag it from home, because with that the case now, in order to get at that milk, you have to pay for it. So by offering a fuel pack, so what we're starting to do is we're pre-packing a fruit and vegetable in bags. And that way, if the student, well, if they simply don't eat with us, they can get at that milk for no charge, because we can count this as a reimbursable meal, because we got 3 out of the 5 meal components. So we hand them the fruit and vegetables that are pre-packed. They can grab their milk, and then there's no charge to the students. So we can give them a little cost savings that way.
Is that available at all schools?
Yeah, we're just starting it because we'll start it and want to wait for the final approval from DPI, but they're already doing it in Oklahoma, but sometimes interpretive of what the rules are. So I want to make sure we're following the rules. So I should find out any day. So we're coming up to our annual Future Chef competition. As like Noah said, this year's criteria was a favorite book or movie. For those of you that don't know, this is actually a national competition throughout all the Sodexo counts throughout the country. As you can see on the right is our esteemed panel of judges. So in addition to Noah and Caitlin, Chef Matt was in there, but The student in the middle, interesting story. His name is Josiah. He goes to Central High School. He's a senior this year. And when I was talking to Dr. Reed earlier in the year and introducing Matt to him, somehow they made a connection. And Dr. Reed must have been working with Josiah. His attendance, he was being a little challenged getting to school and so forth, but he had an interest in the culinary program. So Matt actually has been, since October, has been taking him every Thursday after school into the central kitchen and teaching him some of his culinary skills and improving his skill set. Josiah is in the culinary class over at Central High School. He's doing great this year and he's on track to graduate, and just found out Matt had helped him, and he just got hired with the Bartolotta Group yesterday. I think he's going to work, starting working with them as a dishwasher, but then he'll work up and start working into some other areas as well. So nice young man. I met him actually for the first time at Future Chef. So we asked him to be one of our judges that day. So he's doing really well.
Can I pause you real quick?
Yeah.
I just want to tell the board, I had an opportunity to speak with Josiah as well when, while we were just kind of waiting for the judging to be done and let everyone else have a sample of it. And he really expressed the fact that because he was able to do the culinary arts here at Central, it really made school worthwhile for him. And he really had goals. He loved the fact that cooking allowed him to do essentially whatever he wanted to do. If he wanted to do burgers or he wanted to do this, he cooks all the time at home. So I just really thought it illustrated a really good point about this one student had this one thing that encouraged him to come to school, and that was the culinary arts. So I want to please pass on my kudos to Matt for taking.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for those of you who haven't been in attendance, here's a quick 30-second video of what the kitchen looks like when they're in their competition. The name of our finalists are on the right here. So this year we ended up with 3 third graders and 3 fifth graders. Typically how it works is based on the criteria. My ops manager, Barb, myself will sit down without looking at names and schools that are put an entry in, and we'll try to find the best that meets the criteria. And so as you can see here, our 3 honorable mention students. Kennedy's a 3rd grader over at Hoover. Rebecca's over at Walker, and Dalila is a student at Madison. And so what we ended up doing is once they prepare their entree in the kitchen, they'll come out into the cafeteria. So all of our guests that are invited can see what great things they do, and they each get their own individual table, and we encourage them to decorate it based on the theme of what their the recipe is, and they all did a great job. So and here's our second place person. Jalen is from Madison, and Nathan is 5th grader from Walker. 3rd place. And then you mentioned earlier, Kira is a 3rd grader at Wilson. Came out as our overall winner, and the pizza that you see in the upper right hand corner, that the crust is actually the watermelon itself. And then she put cream cheese on it and various fruits on it. So it was very kid-friendly, colorful, ease of preparation. So what's going to happen now is I was one of the earlier events across the country. There's still some events going on through, I think, mid-April. So Kira's done cooking, but her recipe moves on, and then Sodexo will select regional winners, and the fingers crossed. We've actually had 2 regional winners in the past, so she will get bigger and better prizes than what were given to her on Wednesday the 16th. And then should she be a regional winner, then it goes down to 5 national finalists. And if she's selected for that, it's she'll have to create a YouTube video, and most votes wins. So we're fingers crossed. I have to say, for whatever reason, I usually do my event late March, but 1920 or March of 20, I did it just the week before we shut down. So, but it's kind of, I didn't, the winner then, she did not go on, I can't remember her name offhand, she did not go on to a regional winner, but the really cool thing with her, which never happened before, is her recipes was selected as part of Sodexo's marketing program. So this year, she's actually on one of the posters with her name and the school district she's representing. So that poster is in all the Sodexo accounts across the country. So I wanted to get a picture of that on here, but I forgot. So so we're pretty proud of that. So.
And Steve, can we share Kira's recipe and our book inspiration? Because it's really creative.
Her recipe?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So Kira's book was The Hungry Hungry Caterpillar, and her recipe, the watermelon pizza, was everything that the caterpillar ate in the book.
Oh, that's
So it was
cool.
incredibly creative and healthy and met all, I think that's truly why, I mean, they were all amazing recipes and delicious. And hers just stuck out as through the criteria.
Yeah. It's interesting. I say the most fun day I have in the school district is when I get to go around to various schools and let the kids and the principals, because they get competitive, know that they have a winner. And when I talk to them individually right off the bat, is I ask them if they watch cooking shows on TV, and then they all rattle off 2 or 3. So they were all excited, and we had a lot of fun. So, and I did commit to know that we I did not forget. We will, we don't have a Sodexo sponsored event for the older grades, but we're going to do one on our own because I know they can do it just absolutely amazing things. So that's going to get on the book. So we're going to do. So
I've been bothering Steve for a couple of years.
yeah. Like I said, I just got to schedule it and I have to do it. So and with that, that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions on anything?
I just, so an environmental footprint. So we no longer have the styrofoam, correct? Or do we? And what's that looking like? And then a follow-up. Wondering if Sodexo has ever thought about doing anything with composting all of the food waste, or would we think of it doing anything like that?
Yeah, as far as your first question with the styrofoam, it's just hit and miss. We don't use it. As I really went to a basket and some parchment paper.
Okay.
But when earlier in the school year, when I had some absences and so forth, we did move to that. Unfortunately, didn't want to, and then we moved right back via to the basket, or in the secondary schools, a washable. The only school that is on a styro in a secondary is Central, just based on their dish machine and so forth. But I'm looking at, and I think I found a more compostable versus the styrofoam.
Okay.
And then as far as composting, with the schools, we are actually partnering at Madison. So we're doing it there already. So I'm just kind of on, I know Wilson's got a pretty strong program back there, with their greenhouse and stuff like that. So we've been on and off doing it there too, but it's definitely something that we can do.
I would encourage you to keep going.
Yeah.
I know we had some supply chain issues. Everybody in the whole country is having. Have we been having any more concerns about just like, quick meal changes at all? Or has it been pretty steady?
Yeah, at the start of the school year, there were some that we kind of ironed out, and it kind of dissipated a little bit. Now it seems the things that are in short supply now are any of the pre-breakfast items that we use for breakfast in the classroom. We're struggling on that right now. And then today I was just we're at the mercy sometimes of our distributor if they're having labor issues on getting like trucks or not. Like today as an example, one of my biggest school, where my distributor forgot to put the 3 pallets of frozen items on the truck. So there is a menu change tomorrow in the elementary from a French toast, and we can do a pancake. So we're trying to keep it as close to what the menu was, and then we will go online and change it. The boards in the schools are reflected as well. And then especially in the elementaries, we use a Google Doc. So when the teachers in their classroom take a meal count, they have the updated menu item as well too. So there shouldn't be any surprise when the student goes to the cafeteria.
And then follow up, do we have, I know there are guidelines in place, but do we have limitations on how much a child can take, especially like our football players and wrestlers and lifters? Like I often hear, they're still hungry.
Absolutely. And absolutely, because if I take, in high school as an example, if I take that sophomore petite cheerleader, I have to serve for the same portion as I do as the senior offensive lineman. So there are regulations that we have to follow. Now, as far as fruits and vegetable goes, they can take as much as they want.
Yeah.
That is a challenge, and that's where we're kind of looking at flavors and seasonings and stuff like that. And from a secondary standpoint, and even a lot of the elementary schools, they can get more items, but it's called a la carte. Because we can only serve so much to a student, because then we're going to break that nutritional. We have the menu is analyzed over a 5-day period, so we have to watch, and it's based on elementary, middle school, and high school. So it's even more probably more prevalent when I'm serving a K-5 student, the hot dog who literally would take 2-3 bites out of it versus the 5th grader who would eat the whole thing and is still hungry, kind of thing. But those are the regulations that we have to follow.
Steve, is that federally mandated? or
Yes, it
state?
is. It's federally USDA manages
So
our
all
program.
the states have to
Yeah,
follow
it's all the same. All the nutritional guidelines are all the same.
Is there any way to supplement that via the district? I'm not making Caitlin do more work.
Yeah.
Is that a thing, or is it, we have to follow those federal because that's where the money and supplies, I guess?
Right, we have to follow that. The only, you couldn't, I think you could use any funds out of Fund 50 to support additional food items. If the item is, it can be, if there some, whatever fund in a school that they would have to pay for that second item. I can't even charge for a second meal. I can't have a second meal button on my registers. Everything has to be a la carte. So.
A lot of regulations.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Just trying to find a loophole.
You mentioned the schools where you were able to start moving some of that food prep on site.
Mhm.
And I know you mentioned the challenges of some of the smaller schools. Are you still kind of exploring any creative options we have? Because my concern, and you even mentioned this as well, is food quality is going to be a little bit better when you can make it on site. So,
Absolutely.
so what does that look like in terms of some of those smaller schools and maybe creative options in terms of doing some of those things?
Creative options for me right now is begging the principal for more space. Because we have the funds to accommodate to create a bigger space. So there's an opportunity that way. Trying to get more space. It's when you are bringing some of the kitchens are extremely tiny, and I would like nothing better than to do that, because the kids can notice as well too.
Get some outdoor ovens.
Yeah.
For the nice months.
Well, and I think that with the evaluation that we're doing, especially at the elementary now, which ones we're going to move forward with and which ones that we aren't going to move forward with,
That'll help.
that will help, and then we can use funds and identify, because obviously if there's more kids going to a school, we're gonna have to feed more kids. And so it might be something that we work into the plan of what that transition looks like, is expanding the facilities at the schools that are there so we can do more on-site work.
Yeah,
At least that would
absolutely.
be my idea.
Yeah.
100%. I'm on board with that.
Then we can use funds from Fund 50 for that, right? 'Cause
Yep.
that's for food prep.
And Fund 50 does have some limitations in terms of construction. So
Can't
we have
move
to,
walls, right?
yep.
Yeah, you
move
can't
walls.
build new.
You dig a hole, can you put a hole in the wall?
Well, yes,
We will get
um,
all the areas that we could, have an allowable cost in Fund 50. And speaking of, just as a reminder that we do have fund accounting in school districts. So Fund 50 is completely separate from our general operating budget. And that's why when Steve says there are funds available, that's in Fund 50. So that's
Yes.
completely separate from our funds. And if we can have our legislators change the allowable cost within Fund 50 and allow those to use in our culinary programs, that would be amazing. But right now, that's not how the law works.
Is that a state level?
It's a federal regulation. So, and of all the things that we do, food service is probably one of the most regulated things that we do in our school district, and those are federal regulations. So I do have one final additional thing. I just want to send a thank you to Steve Kasner for the incredible above and beyond way that you run our food service program. And we recognized National School Breakfast Week 2 weeks ago at our board meeting. And we just wanted to send a thank you to our incredible school food service staff. So we have just a little plaque for our school food
Oh,
service.
thank
Really,
you.
this is Steve, and you can pass it on.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I did have one question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Safe Summer School Program, the funding that allowed for us to be able to feed all of our students for free.
Mhm.
And that it's gonna end.
It's going to end.
On June 30th, right? So
It is. So School Nutrition Association, they're still fighting legislation on that. In talking to people at DPI, they're not as positive, but there's still a fight out there to go that route.
Yeah.
So
Have, I know that we still would be able to fund students who qualify for free reduced across over the summer and then into the next school year. Have we thought about are we able to use Fund $50 to expand that to everyone like we had done previously? Is it something we've discussed about doing?
Yep, that's a great question. So Steve, earlier in his presentation, talked about CEP schools, community eligibility provision, and those are schools where all students eat breakfast and lunch for free. And that's based on the percentage of free reduced students.
direct
Direct
certification.
certification. So students who directly certify for free reduced lunch as it stands right now. And so there's an option to have CEP school district-wide. And then there is a cost to our district, which would come from Fund 50. So Steve and I are just talking about that analysis today. So we're working through those numbers and what additional costs we would have. We do get a % reimbursed at the free rate or at the reduced rate.
Yeah, so how it works right now, the identified CEP schools, anyone that eats at those schools, 88.08% of them, their district gets the free reimbursement rate. The remaining percentage would get the paid reimbursement rate. So in my preliminary calculations with the whole district, it looks like the percentage would probably like an 80-20 is what it looks like it would probably be.
So we're working on that now, and our ideal scenario would be to come forward and say this free seamless summer option that is ending as of June 30th is ending, and we would hope to be able to continue to provide free meals via this CEP district-wide, but we're weighing those, working through the dollars right now.
Is there any lobbying going on behalf of school districts to continue this free meal?
There is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was just wondering how
Mhm.
actively, is it
Mhm.
through the consortium we're part of, or the lobbying group we're part of, or is it
It's at
statewide?
The federal level, right? Because
Yeah, it's level.
Yeah, it's at the federal
It's
level.
a federal program right now. The state could pass something, but they're gone for the end of the year, so
And
nothing's gonna get done there. But I was just wondering because there's a lot of things where students don't fill it out or whatever, it doesn't get done, other people were embarrassed. So I would like to see it continue. I don't think the thought that people are gonna misuse it, I think it's just few and far between. If kids want to eat food, we should let them eat food. So I'm glad you're looking into it. That's all I just wanted to know. So any other questions from the rest of the board? Or Heather, do you have any questions? Try not to forget about her.
No, thank you. You hear me?
All right, sounds good. All right, well then, if there's no other questions, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Wow. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
for coming.